Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the season opener for the 56th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Getting ready to kick off what should be an incredible season for these drivers. They'll be having the regular season, trying to win their way into the playoffs, try and win the championship. We're going to talk about last season and how the championship went down in the finale in just a few moments. But I'm Seth Cole, and I'm being joined alongside of Matthew Rodriguez. And Matt, it's been a few seasons. Season 52, I believe, was the last time that we covered this series. Some new faces, new numbers for some familiar faces, some new liveries here tonight. But the thing I love so much about the season opener is everyone's got a clean slate. Everybody starts at 0 points. Everybody wants to get that first checkered flag. So, while the championship race obviously is very exciting, usually it's the season opener, that very first race, that ends up being the slobber knocker.
And honestly, that's a new term. But honestly, you kind of hit the nail right in the head where, hey, you could have won the championship last season. You could have won a record high number of races. But this is race 1 of season 56. This is not season 55. You were on the same slate as the guy beside you, so you really got to start. You can't get that overconfident mind of, oh, I'm going to go out here. I've won every race. I'm going to win it all again. You got to take it race by race. And don't forget how you got there last time. So if you did something last time to get there, don't change your course. Keep on track.
Usual 66 laps going to be run here tonight at Talladega Super Speedway. 40 trucks going to take the green flag here tonight. So if you qualify in the back, you got a lot of trucks to pass to be able to get up there to the front of the field. But maybe more so than even Daytona, Talladega is one of those wider super speedways where if you've got a fast enough truck and got people that are willing to help you, you can make your way up to the front rather quickly.
Extremely. And it's really just kind of timing rather than who you have around you, where obviously if it's lap 5, you're going to find probably an easier chance to get up to the front of the field than you will on the last 3 laps, last 5 laps. So it's all about timing. It's also, again, how you got next to you. If you got a bunch of friends next to you and you're used to how they work, hey, you're going to fly up right to that front of the pack and you've got no issues. But if you're up to kind of have a bunch of strangers, rookies, just people you're not generally familiar, or maybe you just don't like around you, I don't think you're moving anywhere in a hurry.
Of course, the playoffs, or the chase, whichever you want to call it, here in this series takes place with 5 races. After 2 races, you end up whittling the field down from the 10 playoff drivers to 7. After another 2 races, you whittle it down from 7 to your final 4. But last year, in the penultimate race of the season, we had a tie for that 4th and final transfer spot into the championship battle. And so, therefore, an admin decision was made that 5 drivers would battle for said championship, and Josh Metallic was able to not only win the championship, but win that season finale race as well. Here tonight, we could be taking the first step towards seeing another similar scenario at season's end.
And that's a big thing where this is a super speedway series, and at the end of the day, points can be shaken up very quickly and tides can be turned in a pretty much, it's just a turn.
Well, here tonight, these drivers are going to have to deal with something else, and that is that every race this year, the starting lineup is going to be determined by Lotto Q. What that means is that the simulation decides who starts where, who gets what pit stall selection, etc. So you're going to see a lot of big names here tonight in the starting lineup, starting pretty deep in the field. Andrew Miller is going to line up as your pole sitter here tonight, and he'll be alongside of Bob Dixon. We saw a couple of drivers last year pick up their first wins of their career here in the Tally Challenge, and so I really think that this Lotto Q system opens up the door for more of those type of scenarios, some more first-time winners to find victory lane and maybe also make the first appearance in the playoffs of their career here in RTG.
Well, you really got to think about it, where some of the rookies that typically wouldn't show out, or maybe they want to be a more conservative strategy, if they get thrown in the first 3 rows, hey, it's pretty much you got to perform right away. Where some of the guys who may have a little bit more experience coming through his field, hey, they're stuck all the way back in, let's say, 30th. That's going to be a challenge for them to get up. It will not be impossible, but it's going to take a little bit of time, and really lets those young guns kind of show it off.
All 40 drivers gridding on pit road, and the pace truck's going to lead them off of pit lane for their pace lap before turning them loose. We gave you your front row. Richard DeMar Martin is going to line up on the inside of row 2 alongside of Mike Rogers. Brian Schilling will make up row 3 with Tom Dixon. Manny D will roll off from 7th. Ron Hegelin will be to his outside, completing the top 10, going to be Blaine Donlin and Milt Surratt. Cy Jones will roll off from 11th. They'll have Ken Roberts to his outside. Ken Roberts got his first career win last season. Jason Scheck will be alongside of Donnie Garrett in row 7. Bernie Mobbs and Doug Woolley, they'll make up row 8. Row 9 with Doug Hulick and Rodney Sullins. And then completing your top 20 going to be Pat McCarskey and John Godfrey. The multi-time champion Joe DeSpirito rolls off from the 21st position. Tim Knopfsker alongside of him in 22nd. Brian Lavelle and Wiley Coate, they're going to be back in row 12 with Dave Melson and Chris Elliott in row 13. Dante Ricky will roll off from the 27th position. 28th place starting will be Bobby Farrell. Then back completing the top 30 will be Chuck McClure and Curlin Hurst. Bob Seminara will be rolling off 31st. He'll be alongside Billy Elliser on the outside of row 16. Jeremy Jeffries will be back in 33rd with Kelly Causey to his outside in 34th. Terry Bombard rolls off from the 35th position. Jessica Shelton back in 36th. 37th is where we find Mark Paglia. The defending champion, Josh Metallic, has a long road to toe. He's going to be back in 38th for the starting grid. And then completing the field here tonight in the 20th and final row, Glenn Harris and Sean Prime. As we mentioned, it's the season opener. Everybody's gunning for that first checkered flag of the season. It's going to be interesting to see here, Matt, just how aggressive these drivers are going to be out of the gate, because it's the old saying, you can't win the race on the first lap, but you can certainly lose it. You've got to think that the pre-race jitters have got to be going on. The adrenaline is high for these drivers. They got to pull the reins back just a little bit, realize this is a long one and a big field.
I mean, you really got to think, hey, this is a point where you can really make your mark in the season, get it started on a good note, or hey, this is a place where you can kind of get the race start, or maybe season started on maybe not so good of a note.
Green flag is in the air, and season 56 of the RTG Talladega Challenge Series is finally underway. Andrew Miller on that inside line, going to lead the field through 1 and 2. Like he's going to be followed in tow by Richard Martin. He'll move up there and pick up the fellow STP machine of Bob Dixon. Brian Schilling has the opening to the inside for second place in that 4 car, but looks like the top 2, at least for the moment, they're going to get single file, leaving them double wide for the 3rd position. Double wide all the way back from 3rd place to the 40th spot. No 3 wide as of yet. Give it a lap or two. We might see a 3rd lane forming.
Absolutely. You're going to kind of look at it here, and I think some of these guys maybe trying to...
Oh, man! Got a truck in the wall. They save it. That was, I believe, Tom Dixon, the 45, that went up the racetrack. I think it might have been Mike Rogers in the 11. Oh, they're wrecking that start-finish line. That was Bernie Mobbs in the 31. Up and over. Caution is going to fly for the first time here tonight, right at the completion of lap 1.
And I just saw a blow over bear in the back. But you got to think that's what everyone was fearing all the way back in the pack is, hey, you don't want to be caught up in a lap 1 incident. You want to be caught up in a lap 2 incident.
We will drop back to see the drivers that were involved, but we also have to bear in mind that it is race back to the start-finish line here when the caution flies. So as we follow this battle for the top spot, Richard Martin going to edge out ahead, clear now of Andrew Miller. Brian Schilling in that 3rd spot. Like that will be the top 3 coming back around to receive the first caution of the day. And like I said, can't win the race on the first lap, but certainly could lose it. There's a number of trucks that I saw that were taking some hard hits. The 31 of Bernie Mobbs, who we were used to seeing in the 90, number change for him here this season, going for a tumble across the start-finish line. I think we're going to have a number of drivers right out of the gate that are going to be dealing with some aero damage.
You know, that car flipped over. Honestly, it looks, besides the little bit of a dent on the roof, it honestly looks fast.
Manny D in the 710. Saw a number of drivers spin down to the inside of the racetrack, just past the start-finish lines. Bobby Farrell in the 92, just ahead of him. Jason Scheck in the 1. We'll look back at the replay to get an idea of exactly everyone that was involved in this incident. And you bring up the point there about, not a whole lot of visible damage on the 31. Moderate damage here for this series. And super speedways are funny because a lot of times a car that looks like it is down and out as far as the damage sustained still is up to speed as long as it's able to stay in the draft. Whereas there's a driver that takes maybe just a minor bump. You think he's good to go. Next thing you know, he's losing the draft several miles per hour off the pace. So Take a look at this coming off of the start finish line. We were 4 wide, I believe, at one point here.
Yeah, it looks like they were fanning out 4, almost 3, and just kind of ran out of room a little bit. I don't think he thought he was that close to the wall, kind of ran him up, and at that point, it was just chain reaction from there.
That was a 710 to Manny D coming down across the nose of the one of Jason Scheck. And then watch this here as Bernie Mobbs throws it into reverse, keeps it in the same line. Other drivers going around him. So a bit of a moving obstacle for drivers to have to deal with there. But yeah, a lot more drivers seem to take even bigger hits than Bernie Mobbs did, despite the fact that he went up and over. Looks like Rodney Sullins got a piece of it. Trying to see the other drivers that were involved. I believe maybe John Godfrey got a little bit. There's a lot of drivers that got bits and pieces of this wreck.
Yeah, everyone just got a little bit of a piece here. It doesn't look like Rodney Solon's got that much damage. I think it was just a little bit of dent here, a little bit of dent there. Nothing that will really affect speed, but further on back, you see Blaine Donlin kind of got a little bit more damage there. I'd be kind of worried anywhere from the front end to the engine area.
Donlin getting a hit there. I believe the 93 of Curlin Hurst, he was involved. Saw Joe DeSpirito and Jeremy Jeffries both dart down to the infield grass to be able to avoid. Let's actually go on board with the multi-time champion, Joe DeSpirito, who had to start this race pretty deep in the field and starting with not that great of track position, making your way through a big wreck like that, picking up a lot of spots, that kind of makes you feel a little bit better having to start it pretty deep back in the starting grid.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit of confidence that you kind of made your way through this a little bit big wreck. Again, got to worry about damage, got to worry about, again, ARCA brakes. That is the big thing, making sure you don't get damage from that. But again, as long as your front end's fine, as long as that spoiler's fine, and as long as that engine seems okay, you should be fine.
Thought that DeSpirito made it through okay, but as we saw there with that onboard, he got into the back of somebody there. We're going to see if we can pinpoint who that was, and then had some follow-up contact with the 92 of Bobby Farrell. The truck that he got into was the 23 of Duck Hulick. So, yeah, even the multi-time champion got a bit of that incident.
And that's what Lotto Q does. It puts a lot of these guys in situations that they probably don't want to be in normally, and it forces them into these mistakes where, again, you don't normally see some of these guys get caught in wrecks because they're typically at the front of the field. They're away from this. So, hey, it's a great equalizer at that point.
Chris Elliott got involved. Manny D went up and over after a hit from the sliding Billy Elliser. So the list just continues to pile up here of drivers that were collected up in this incident. And now a lot of drivers going to be spending the remainder of this race more or less in damage repair mode, as we should get the 1 to green next time by. We didn't get it this time, and a number of drivers elected to come down pit road, pretty much the second half of the field. Milt Surratt, Dave Melson, Jeremy Jeffries all coming down pit road, and then pretty much from there on down were drivers that got bits and pieces of the incident. The other drivers I can see that maybe came down pit road, but not for damage repair: Mark Paglia, Ron Hagelin, Brian Lavelle, but there were probably a good, I would say, 10 to 12 drivers that got bits and pieces of that incident, some more so than others, and obviously had to come down and repair those trucks as best as they possibly could.
Absolutely. And again, that's kind of the point where you hope that these things are fixed as best you can, and you hope that you're up to speed. You'll never really know until you pull out and try to pass someone, but that's going to be a wait and see.
Now, obviously, you want to get the season started off on a high note. Even if you don't get a win, if you get a top 5, if you get a top 10, it gives you a bit of a starting point for the remainder of the season. But do you think that in a super speedway series where a lot of randomness comes into play, into, positioning, timing of a caution, so many different factors, do you think that a DNF here in the season opener is really going to dampen a driver's opportunity to be able to still battle for said championship, even to get a playoff spot? Because after tonight, there's still 9 more tries to get into that playoff field.
Realistically, if I see my driver, or if I see a driver on my team, or even myself, if I wreck out the first race, honestly, I wouldn't even be worrying about the standings. It's more or less the confidence at that point. Hey, you roll into this race, so much optimism, so much confidence. Hey, we're going to go out, we're going to make a good first impression, and we wreck on lap 1, and we're totaled on lap 1. And that's a terrible thing to come back from. And it shakes your confidence of, man, I practiced all this time, and I ended up junking in the car in the first 2 laps. It shakes your confidence. It just really depends on how you bounce back.
Lights should go out atop the pace car this time. Richard Martin going to be the race leader. Looks like he is electing the top side for this restart. Leader does have lane choice. Second place has to line up in the opposite lane. Everybody else lines up according to where they're running. Odds on the inside and evens on the outside. So indeed, Demar going to take the top. Andrew Miller will be on the bottom. Then Brian Schilling, Bob Dixon, Ken Roberts. That's your top five. Donnie Garrett, Cy Jones, Doug Woolley, John Godfrey, and Tim Nofsker. That's your top 10. I'm going to bring up another point here with the lotto queuing that I was going to mention before we ended up having that caution come out. You talked about drivers that aren't necessarily used to starting at the back, having to kind of adapt their strategy accordingly. What about the flip side? Drivers that are comfortable with qualifying at the back or not even qualifying at all to make sure that they start at the rear of the field, possibly being put up on the front row, up inside the top five, a place where they're not necessarily comfortable.
Yeah, that's the thing where if you're kind of new to being up front and you're kind of new to leading the pack, it's kind of one of those, man, I am the 100% most sketchiest and uncomfortable person in this line. And it's kind of the thing where you can't let people in on it, but everyone around you knows that he is not comfortable. He does not need to be up here.
And I feel that that incident that we had bringing out the first caution might have been that kind of a case, because a couple of those drivers that were involved, Mike Rogers, Manny D, we normally see them when we had the broadcast of this series back in season 52, they would be comfortably riding at the tail end of the pack and then make their charge late in the race. I think it was a case of drivers jumping to the top, trying to fall to the back, and that just stacks everybody up and led to that contact, led to that incident, and end up putting us under our first caution of the day. We're going to finally get back green. So we got a lap completed just barely before the caution wave for the first time here in season 56. We're going to go back green flag racing on lap 7 of 66, and Richard Martin coming up here to the restart zone, going to be the one to get us back underway at Talladega.
And just that anticipation, you're waiting for that first guy to go, and once the first guy goes, everyone goes.
A little bit of space there between the STP-sponsored machines. Richard Martin in a Chevrolet, Bob Dixon in a Dodge. Dixon might be waiting for a good launch to give Richard Martin a bump. But look at there on the inside line, the Chevrolets of Andrew Miller, Brian Schilling locked up, and momentum might be on that inside line going into turn 1. Miller is clear for the top position. We saw before when he started on pole for the initial start of this race, he jumped up to the top side down the back straightaway to pick up Richard Martin. Let's see if he does that here. No, he's going to stay on the bottom and help Brian Schilling in the 4, as well as the 55 of Ken Roberts. Cy Jones down there as well. Top side, you've got Richard Martin, Bob Dixon, and they've got Donnie Garrett, third truck on that outside line. Not used to saying truck in this series. They made the swap over to the NCTS 09 mod, I believe it was last season, and they've been running a setup that's been a tried and true setup for them. Been some incredible racing. As a matter of fact, we got a little bit of an insider look when we covered the RTG Super Speedway Series All-Star race for the year 2022 just a couple of weeks ago.
And that's a big thing where you may say, oh, we're using a pretty much a tried and true setup, so we've never tried to innovate. But here's the thing, if it's working and the circumstances don't change, why change it? Why fix it?
Absolutely. How about that Eric Darnell 99 truck up there on the top side? That's Doug Woolley, the former Super Speedway Series champion, creating the third line. Looks like Donnie Garrett's going to jump up there with him. Also, is that, I believe, Tim Nofsker in the 88. Having to get used to a lot of these new paint schemes for these drivers here this season, but hopefully going to get them all squared away by the time we get the checkered flag here tonight.
3 by 3.
Well. And that top side's got the momentum. Middle line's the one that's not moving. Schilling takes the lead on the bottom, but look at Garrett on that top side with a lot of help. And this is where things get really scary and really sketchy, in the fact that these drivers, they want to give each other space, but at the same time, you kind of have to pinch the inside line down if you're the middle line. You got to pinch the middle line down if you're the outside line. So last thing you want to do is have somebody make a mistake. We've already had one big wreck here in the early stages of this race.
Well, that's the thing. You got to put a lot of faith in the guys around you. And here's the thing. You obviously have your friends that you're drafting with, but you have a lot of trust in everyone around you. Because here's the thing. If one of those guys, let's say in the middle lane, makes a mistake, that bottom and that top lane may be going with it.
Boy, I'll tell you what, that middle line is definitely the proverbial sucker hole. Andrew Miller, who was leading the middle line 3 wide for the race lead, is now dropped back to around the 9th position. Brian Schilling and Ken Roberts have been able to make the inside line work as they've moved to the front, and now the outside line becomes the middle line. Donnie Garrett moves down, and Tim Nofsker is going to leave Doug Woolley out to dry on the top side. Chuck McClure in tow.
And the fact that these guys are able to stay 3x3x3 for this long is just either a testament to his setup, his league, and the drivers here.
Like right now, we have 37 drivers up in this lead group. A couple of drivers have lost touch with the lead pack, assuming that it would be the damage they sustained back at the completion of lap 1. Jason Scheck and Manny D currently running together in a 2-truck tandem. They are about 4.5 seconds behind the lead group, and Bernie Mobbs at roof damage, obviously just the tip of the iceberg of the damage he sustained from his barrel roll just past the start-finish line. He is about 15 seconds back, obviously very much so off the pace. So for those drivers, they are now in the assumption that, or hoping that that wasn't the last caution that we see. More drivers going to have torn up race trucks by the end of the night and maybe be able to pick up a spot or two.
So let me pick your brain here a little bit. I always love these kind of if you're in that scenario, even though knowing that we both usually aren't in that kind of scenario. So if you're kind of one of those guys in the middle, it kind of boxed in by both sides. Does it make you feel a little bit nervous? I mean, how do you kind of anticipate and plan this?
I've been in the middle in this series before. It is scary because you obviously don't want to hit the trucks on the inside, but you've got to pinch down. At the same time, when you pinch down, if you don't give enough room, then you got to compensate and move up top, and you've got that outside line pinching you. And these guys are making it look easy, this middle line for sure, but it is anything but peaceful when you're running the middle groove here 3 wide.
And then I'll go ahead and I'll put a little bit of reverse on that. What if you're the leader? What if you're Tim Nofsker? I mean, UCO is like 3 wide behind you. I mean, what is your thought?
Pick a line and just hope that everybody is there with you. It's very difficult to be able to control the draft here. Usually you step out to be able to block a line. That line's got so much momentum. Usually you're the one that's on the losing end. So right now looks like Nofsker, that bright yellow truck, is pretty committed to that inside line. Andrew Miller, along with Cy Jones, go around. Wiley Cote is spinning as well. Another truck in the wall further back. I don't know if the caution is going to fly or not. A lot of that was below the yellow line. Yes, no caution coming out. We saw this back in the All-Star race as well. When the spin takes place below the yellow line, is considered off the racing surface, and no caution flies as a result. Pat McCarskey was the other truck that we saw go around there on the back straightaway. Wiley Cote, Andrew Miller have continued on. Cy Jones has done the same. No yellow flag for a 4-truck incident on the back straightaway. Now the top 5 going to get themselves single file. Nofsker, Chuck McClure, Brian Schilling, Ken Roberts, and Doug Woolley. Now it's going to be Richard Martin clear for 6th. Curlin Hurst trying to take 7th from Doug Hulick. Chuck McClure, as a matter of fact, the last season that we broadcasted back in season 52 was the champion of that series. So obviously trying to get his 2nd championship of his career. McClure was a multi-time winner last season, going to victory lane 2 times. He finished out the year 6th in the overall point standings, came up just short of advancing into that championship battle in the finale.
And just see, now is kind of the calm because they saw the wreck behind and they kind of saw how that kind of transpired. So everyone's gotten single file, and this is where we start logging laps.
Tim Nofsker, obviously, he's out to get a little bit of redemption from last season. He did win last year, but unfortunately, it was during the playoffs, and he had not advanced into that championship playoff field. So Nofsker trying to take care of the problem early on here this season, get that first checkered flag and a guaranteed spot in the playoffs. And with so much on the line, no surprise that we've seen the aggressive racing in the early going, that early caution coming out for 4 wide, 3 wide, several rows deep from the front row all the way back to the rear of this field. Now we're starting to see these drivers settle in single file, which says to me they've gotten the pre-race jitters, the early race adrenaline out of their system. Now it's time to ride and start to strategize for the potentiality of this season's first round of green flag pit stops.
That's the big thing. Next one is big thing is obviously, like you said, pit stops. So obviously you've got your team strategy. Well, let's say another team undercuts you by 1 or 2 laps. How do you kind of respond to that? Do you want to match them, or do you want to keep on your current strategy?
I think basically we're going to see everybody coming down pit road around the same time. We know the fuel window for these guys is anywhere from 19 to 21 laps, depending on where you're running, how much fuel you can save. And we also got a little bit of a taste of what kind of alliances we could see of drivers coming down pit road on the same lap back during that Super Speedway Series All-Star race a couple of weeks ago. A little house cleaning here for a few drivers. We saw just moments ago Pat McCarskey get put a lap down. That was the second lap that he lost after an unscheduled pit stop, repairing damage from that incident on the back straight that did not bring out a yellow. Also, an unscheduled pit stop for the 7 of Cy Jones, who was involved in the contact with Andrew Miller on the back straightaway. So those two drivers right now running off the lead lap. Let's bear in mind here as well, though, that if a caution comes out, it's not one driver, but 2 drivers that receive the lucky dog. And we've got more drivers up ahead that are about to go a lap down. Bernie Mobbs in the 31. There you see him, and the truck just ahead of him, I believe, is the Andrew Miller machine. Those 2 drivers are about to go a lap down for Bernie Mobbs and a second lap down, or make that a lap down for both of those drivers, the 31 and the 47. No, actually, that's Cy Jones in the 7 truck that's there with Bernie Mobbs. He's now going to go a second lap down to the race leaders. Andrew Miller currently running roughly about 14 seconds ahead of this lead group, but he's all by himself. So within, I would say, the next 3 to 5 laps, he's going to find himself a lap down as well. And that brings us here, Matt, to the kind of race within the race that we seem to talk about with Super Speedway Series as well. You usually end up having the battle for the race lead, but somewhere there up towards the front or maybe in the mid-pack, you've got that battle for the free pass position going on.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where if you're a lap down, you're more focused on that battle for the free pass and kind of playing the long game. You're not really in it to, best of words, fight for the win just yet.
Now, we ended up having the caution come out at the completion of lap 1. We went back green on lap 7, so with rough calculations here, I would say that these drivers are in the vicinity of 6 to 7 laps out from when they would have to come down pit road for green flag pit stops. And while it may not seem like it, pit road at Talladega can be just as treacherous as out on the racing surface itself, because there's so much you have to think about, so much coordination and execution that comes into play. You've got to be able to, first off, make sure you come down pit road with friends, but then it's like air traffic control with everybody having different braking zones and different lanes that they want to enter in. Some want to be right by that commitment cone, some want to be right down against that inside wall on pit road entry. And then while you're doing all of that, you got to make sure that you get this thing back down from over 190 miles per hour to 55 miles per hour to avoid getting a pit road speeding penalty.
And that's what we like to call a cluster. And that's the thing where so many guys have different entries and you kind of have a little bit of familiarity. You have a little bit of familiarity with your teammates. However, if anyone else is pitting around you, you kind of have to guesstimate, hey, I'm going to hit my brakes here, I'm going to hit my brakes here. And everyone kind of enters pit road a little bit differently. So one may enter at the wall. Same thing like you were saying.
Back here around the 13th position, I do believe. It's just outside of the top 10. You got Brian Lavelle in the 043, Jessica Shelton, the 48. They're racing side by side with Rodney Sullins in the 38 car. Wow, what a gutsy move there by Brian Lavelle. Just barely squeezing up in front of Rodney Sullins, getting to the top side of John Godfrey. That says to me that some drivers might be pitting, and indeed they are. Here come a whole bunch of them. About 8, 9, 10 trucks heading down pit lane. They're being led down by the 17 of Chuck McClure, the 88 of Tim Nofsker, Brian Schilling, Ken Roberts, and others.
And the biggest threat here is a speeding penalty. You do not want to speed. It's pretty much a whole, I believe it's a full 45 seconds.
30 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, that they hold you on pit road. Saw other drivers coming down pit lane. Mark Paglia in the 28, 77 of Donnie Garrett, 93 of Curlin Hurst. Nofsker's going to win the battle off pit road, it looks like. Well, not so fast. Brian Schilling going to try and challenge him. Now they got to figure out who's going to actually lead this group off of pit lane, because yeah, you might win the battle off of pit road, but we're not under caution. Well, I say that and now we're under caution. I should not have said the word caution. I just jinxed it apparently, and I'm not certain. Oh, Bob Dixon having a problem here on pit road entry. That second group coming down pit lane and didn't make it on as cleanly as the first group. Looked like there might have been a second pair of skid marks there. Oh yeah, there were a couple more pair of skid marks. So
I'm guessing
someone else was in
someone
it.
may have tried to take pit road just a little bit hot.
Just a tad. Either that or maybe somebody wasn't aware of another driver's braking zone. Terry Bombard. Can't tell if there might be a little bit of front end damage on the 10 truck.
I think if we find someone whose nose looks like a snowplow, I think we may find our answer very quickly.
I think you are correct. Let's see if we can drop back and look at a replay to be able to pinpoint exactly who that driver was. Doug Halleck, the race leader, leading us back to caution, but he and a number of others still yet to come down pit road. And let's see if we can find out who got into Bob Dixon, because that rear end damage certainly looks like he got run into from behind. Oh, looked like it might have been the 48 of Jessica Shelton. We're running third and fourth in line here.
Oh, I think that's just a miscommunication.
If Dixon was coming to pit road, he was awfully high on the racetrack there to start slowing down.
It's one of those things where I think he would just made a last-second decision, or he was spooked by some of the guys in front of him, and he maybe had that split second of hesitation.
Hard to tell, too, if Jessica Shelton might have been planning to come down pit road with him, because she looked like she was starting to migrate down towards that yellow line also, unless she got a tap from behind by, I believe that was the 8 of Jeremy Jeffries. Let's see if we can take another look at this one again. Watch the Valvoline truck there, 6th on the inside line. Oh, yeah, just like that was a stack up there. And then, oh, Shelton's going to get a hit there by... That was Milt Surratt in the 80. Mike Rogers just barely avoiding her. So some contact coming to pit road. Bob Dixon with a lot of damage to the rear. Jessica Shelton with obviously going to have some front end damage. Take an onboard with the 48 and see if there was any indication by the 143. Now, obviously, these drivers have the ability to be able to state over chat, both verbally and in the NR chat, that they're coming to pit road. Kind of almost looked like from our camera view that Shelton was not going to be coming down pit lane that lap. Let's see here. That 143 seemed to be just a little too high up there to be coming to pit road, but at the same time, you had the 38 of Rodney Sullins, who was to his left, like he was going to be coming down a little bit further to the left on pit road entry, so Dixon might have been trying to compensate for that. Just unfortunate there that braking zone was up on the racetrack rather than down below that double yellow line.
That's the big problem, that pit road really turns into LA traffic very quickly, and I'd say when you're going about 190, 180, and then you got LA traffic, it's kind of hard to avoid, and I really think it was just a miscommunication between drivers.
Caution out for the second time here tonight, right in the middle of green flag pit stops. Going to have a number of drivers now taking the opportunity to come down pit road under caution. Ron Hagelin coming down pit road along with Jason, or make that Cy Jones in the 7. Bernie Mobbs coming down pit lane. Update on the drivers that would be the lucky dogs at this point in time. They would have been Bernie Mobbs and Wiley Coate. They were the first two drivers, -1 at the time of the yellow. So they'll be back on the lead lap when we eventually get the green flag flying once again. A number of those drivers that were leading up inside the top 5, top 10 just after the caution flew, they've already come down pit road and made their pit stops under yellow. So in a way, that caution really worked out for that first group, Nosker, Schilling, McClure, Martin, because they were able to stay on the lead lap with how big this 2.66 mile super speedway is. And when everybody came down pit road that hadn't pitted yet, they gained back that valuable track position.
And that's like the standard kind of strategy there where if you're the first one to hit pit road, you open yourself up so much where if you hit pit roads first with your group, you run a chance that, hey, a caution may come out. I'm really aided by this, but you also run the risk of, with the first guys coming down pit road, there's a chance that you get taken out by just some guys who are reactionary pitting. It's kind of a roll the dice strategy, and it definitely worked out for him this time.
Got some Nofsker fans in the chat here tonight. He's going to be our leader when we go back green. Also got some Dante Ricky fans in the chat here this evening. Dante Ricky, let's also mention this. We talked about the fact we had a bit of a precursor of what to expect here this season when we covered the Super Speedway Series All-Star race a couple of weeks ago. Dante Ricky was the winner of that race. So what do you think? Do people look in the direction of that 84 here tonight as somebody definitely to watch, maybe pick up his second Super Speedway Series victory in the last 3 weeks?
Definitely someone to watch, but probably not for the right reason. It's one of those things where, hey, if you had that kind of almost preseason-esque race and you've kind of had that little bit of warm-up, everyone's looking for that guy, and they're kind of using him as a little bit of a gauge. Am I doing better than him?
Well, last season, a little bit of an interesting statistic that I noticed was 2 drivers managed to do something that is maybe one of the most difficult things to do in super speedway racing, and that was go coast to coast, pole to win. John Godfrey did it last season in race number 2, and then Ken Roberts did it in race number 12. So will be interesting to see here tonight if Andrew Miller is going to be able to do that. Obviously, he's got a bit of a journey before he gets to that point. We saw him get airborne on the back straightaway, no benefit of a yellow flag coming out to save him, and so he is right now 1 lap down back in the 38th position. Still a long ways to go, plenty of opportunity for a caution to come out, put him back on the lead lap, but I do not believe we've ever had a driver go coast-to-coast pole to win in a season opener here in the RTG Super Speedway Series.
Again, there's always a first time for everything, and he'd definitely love to be the first.
I saw some drivers that would have gained that valuable track position come down pit road and give it up. Tim Nofsker and Brian Schilling amongst those. Chuck McClure as well. Coming down pit road to top off the fuel tank. That hands the race lead over to Richard Martin. So Martin's going to be 2 for 2 in leading us back to green on restarts. He'll have Ken Roberts to his inside. John Godfrey, Donnie Garrett, and Doug Woolley. That's going to be the top 5, top 10. Brian Lavelle, Dave Melson, Doug Hulick, Joe DeSpirito, and Chris Elliott. We're coming around to complete the 27th lap of this race. There's going to be 40 laps still to go. We know there's still at least 1 more pit stop these drivers are going to have to make, so would love to be a fly on the wall down there, the pit box of the 088, 4, and 17, of why they elected to come down and maybe get that extra lap of fuel.
Honestly, I'm kind of in the pits of the guys who didn't want to pit there because, again, right now, it's the first race this season. I can kind of afford to take some risk. Obviously, you want to get it started on the right foot, but we did have some cars wreck earlier. Even if I do run out of fuel, I think I've got a little bit of extra play room.
You'll see occasionally these trucks kind of bog down into the racetrack. That's them throwing in the clutch and trying to save some fuel. Saw a couple trucks up here inside the top 10 through 3 and 4 throwing in the clutch and trying to save a drop or 2 here, maybe expecting this thing could go green from here to the finish. 40 laps left here in tonight's season opener. It's Richard Martin, the control truck here into the restart zone. Green flag back out here at Talladega. Great jump there for Donnie Garrett to give a shove to the 43, but inside line formed up again. John Godfrey hooked to that rear bumper of Ken Roberts. And inside line gets the advantage again. This is something we're going to be talking about all season long as well. Inside line on restarts, definitely preferred, but once these trucks get up to speed, that middle line is the preferred line. And I remember back in the last couple of seasons, season 52, season 51, we saw these drivers running double wide, but there wasn't an inside line or an outside line. It was both rows of trucks running that middle line right between those white hash marks, sharing that extra fast lane, and pretty much not giving a whole lot of door room in between, but they made it work.
And that's the thing where, again, you got to have confidence, you got to have trust in the guys around you, but you know you can pull those moves, and it usually won't result in an accident most of the time.
One thing I'm probably going to want to ask these drivers between this week and next week is, back when we were broadcasting this series, they were running the Cup cars. Now they're in the trucks, and I wonder if there might be a difference between the hit boxes and might affect the difference in the way that these drivers race each other side by side, how much room they give, or if it doesn't play that much of a factor. Obviously, the truck's a little bit more boxier, so I would assume that their hit boxes would be a little bit more prevalent than the Cup cars.
You can always think about the package differences too, anywhere from Cup cars to GNS physics, and again, truck physics. Again, those kind of work very differently. It's going to be kind of a fun factor, I think you'd say.
Dead even heat to the line. Ooh, I don't even know who led that lap, to be honest. It was close. Ticker says it was Richard Martin on the top side by 1/1000th of a second. That could be a precursor to what we could see later on here tonight. They're 3 wide further back there around the 15th, 16th position. I believe that's Jeremy Jeffries up there on the top line leading the charge. He's going to pick up Sean Prime. Now he dives to the middle. Boy, I don't know where to look in this battle here. 3 wide are up at the front, still double wide. We're going to go 4 wide here now. Prime third truck on the outside line, Jeffries in the middle, inside line Billy Elliser, and it was Brian Schilling, high, wide, and handsome on a first-name basis with the outside wall for a brief moment.
This is where it starts getting a little bit dicey. We're not halfway through the race yet, so I'm kind of wondering why they're racing this hard for at least mid-halfway.
Stuck in the middle is going to be Bob Seminara, the 712. He's in the tire tracks of the 23 of Doug Hulick. It's going to be Chris Elliott in that purple number 9 Dodge. He's going to lead the third line around the top side now. Let's jump back up to the front as clear for the race lead now will be Richard Martin. Donnie Garrett going to help push him there up through the middle. Going to have Brian Lavelle and Doug Hulick right there also. And that top side, it's gotten its way up to 4th, now 3 wide for the 3rd position. That Mountain Dew Dodge of Chris Elliott. Got a lot of fast trucks behind him. Now Donnie Garrett swaps from the middle down to the inside line to pick up Ken Roberts. He's going to lead that lap. So far here tonight, Novsker has led the most laps with 10. Richard Martin has led 9. Ken Roberts has led 3. Donnie Garrett just led his 2nd of the evening. Doug Hulick has also led 2 laps. And then leading 1 lap apiece, Brian Schilling, Ron Hagelin, and Andrew Miller, our pole sitter. Going to have a lot more lead changes, I think, before this night is over, as we're nearing halfway through tonight's season opening race at Talladega.
Still 3 by 3 by 3. And again, you kind of wonder, you see it looks amazing, but you wonder how long it could last.
Of course, you wonder as well when these drivers might elect to come down pit road for their final pit stop of the day. If we go green, they probably would split this final run in half, about 20 laps from the restart and then 20 laps from the green flag pit stop to the conclusion. We also have to remember too, while there are 66 laps, there are 66 laps in regulation. That doesn't mean that we are going to finish this race under green flag conditions. We've already seen the caution wave a couple of times here tonight and run 3, 4, sometimes depending on if we have lap trucks, 5 laps under pacing. So while these drivers are theoretically racing to the conclusion of this event at the completion of lap 66, if a caution comes out even at the completion of lap 62 onto 63, there is the likelihood that the race could end under yellow. We've seen that scenario before here in this series.
Absolutely, and that's where it gets a little bit, you kind of want to push it to the absolute limit. I'm looking at more of those guys in the back and wondering if their strategies are kind of mimicked or at least set up for that.
Starting to notice a few drivers making their way up towards the front that we really haven't talked about tonight. How about that third truck on the inside line, John Godfrey? Godfrey, a former All-Star race winner in the Super Speedway Series and a former winner last season as well, picking up a checkered flag in the second race of season 55. I'm also noticing that 24 Exalta Chevrolet Silverado of Joe DeSpirito, the multi-time champion of the series. He is slowly working his way up to the front, 4th truck on that inside line, and right behind him, the defending champion of the series, John Metallic, 2-time winner last season.
Maybe a little bit early to call it, but I'm definitely liking Johnny Garrett as my pick to win this race. I'm just waiting for him to get that commentator's curse now.
Yeah, well, obviously he's hoping the commentator's curse doesn't happen. Puts two left sides down on the apron right there going into turn one. I believe I actually just called him John Metallic. It's Josh Metallic, so my error there. And all of a sudden that outside line's losing momentum. Brian Schilling was leading Tim Knopfsker and company up towards the front. Now they'll pick up the 8 of Jeremy Jeffries. And just like that, the momentum is back. And Jeffries, utilizing that momentum, might be able to get the race lead here through 3 and 4.
And that's a big thing where you've heard it talked about so much in the past that the middle is really just a black hole where you just kind of fall through the field, but that middle line is really holding you.
Jeremy Jeffries went winless last season. I'll try and see when his last victory was here in the Tally Challenge Series. Like it was back in November of 2021, race 9, season 54. So a bit of a winless streak there for the driver of the 8 truck. So he's obviously someone trying to find victory lane once again. Brian Schilling trying to do his best here to push the 8 to the front. Knopfsker there as well. But again, it's starting to look like they're losing a bit of momentum. As soon as I say that, though, they got a big run down the back straightaway. And I remember talking to these drivers back in season 52, and they said if you're going to make a line work, you have to, yes, push, but on some occasions you have to shove. And the 4 has stayed committed to the back bumper of the 8. There's been very little breathing space between those two bumpers, and you can see the end result. Jeffries clear for the top spot, Schilling clear into second. They're trying to tow Tim Knopfsker along with him. Remember that strategy I was talking about there, about Knopfsker and Schilling giving up a lot of good starting track position to come down pit road? Yeah, well, it apparently didn't affect them. They made their way up into the top 5 pretty quickly.
And that's the kind of confidence you need to pull that kind of strategy.
The other truck that pitted with them, Chuck McClure, he is yet to make his way up inside the top 20. Right now, mired back in the 23rd position, as we have currently all 40 trucks that took the green flag to start this race still running. 36 of them currently on the lead lap. Andrew Miller and Bob Dixon would be in the free pass positions should we get a caution. This time by 30 laps remaining here in the season opener at Talladega. And again, trying to work the calculator here, I would say that these drivers are probably about 10 to 12 laps away from when they're going to have to try pit road under green again. We saw a number of drivers execute it perfectly on the first group of drivers. Second group having a little bit more of an issue, and I don't know, do we hesitate to say it here, Matt? Could that potentially be the money stop of the night?
I would by default say it is the money stop, but obviously we've seen enough to know that it may change here.
Top 4 now going to get themselves clear. Doug Hulick going to now move into that 4th spot. Outside line Mark Paglia trying to clear Donnie Garrett for 5th, and I think almost clear, not quite. Donnie Garrett's still going to get to his left rear quarter panel the shorter way around the racetrack through turn 1, but maybe this time down the back straightaway, Paglia will clear for that 5th position. You've got Curlin Hurst there on that top side as well. Chris Elliott, a couple of purple machines. Crown Royal on the 93. Mountain Dew on the 9. Donnie Garrett continuing to try and lead that inside line. He's got Ken Roberts with him, John Godfrey, and Doug Woolley. They aren't obviously making up a lot of ground, but this might be strategy here too, in the fact that they're realizing we would be very close to green flag pit stops, and usually the telltale sign of drivers getting ready to head for pit road is they go down there to that double yellow line, making sure that nobody's going to be able to get to drivers left when they eventually peel off.
You know, I'm just kind of stuck in that Crown and Mountain Dew kind of combo. I'm really starting to wonder if some of these drivers pick their sponsors just to kind of make those weird combos.
I mean, what kind of a mix do you think that would be? My goodness.
Get some good old Dr. Pepper nerds.
You'd have to have Mountain Dew Live Wire, I would assume, probably for that. But Curlin Hurst, that Crown Royal machine, is going to dive now to the inside line on Mark Paglia to try and pick up the 5th position. We mentioned that we're going to see it all season long. These drivers are not going to be able to determine where they start in the grid. It is done by random lotto queue, and I was kind of curious to look and see who would be the drivers so far here tonight with less than 30 to go that has picked up the most spots. I believe that driver would be Mark Paglia, right now in the 5th position. Started this race back in 37th, so good job by him, utilizing the ability to get through those early cautions, use a little bit of pit strategy, and obviously work the draft to get himself up here towards the front of the field.
Honestly, coming to think about that kind of lotto queue, it just shows this race how much it's shaken up. And just imagine the entire season like this.
Imagine this when we end up having the playoffs. I mean, I remember back in the seasons that we broadcasted, usually you had your championship 4 up at least inside of the top 10, if not the top 5. Now we've got the chance here when the playoffs begin of maybe all 10 of our playoff contenders starting the races outside of the top 20. That just throws a huge monkey wrench into pit strategy for sure.
That's a lotto queue giveth, your lotto queue taketh.
Had a truck coming to pit road. I believe that was Pat McCarskey in the 0. We saw him a couple laps ago coming down pit lane for an unscheduled stop, multiple laps down. I believe he's coming down to serve a penalty for speeding. And you saw just there, Bob Dixon in the 143 go a second lap down. So right now, the only driver in line to get a lucky dog to put him back in the lead lap would be Andrew Miller. Dixon is still in line for a free pass, but it would only gain him 1 of the 2 laps he has lost and keep him 1 lap down for any future restart. As at the line, Jeremy Jeffries continues to show the way. And this is also an interesting part of strategy, especially when we know that we're on the eve of green flag pit stops, is do you want to be that truck out in front? Because super speedway rules dictate that that truck or car that's out in front, it's creating the draft for the rest of the machines behind and thus using the most fuel.
If you're on a fuel strategy, that is the absolute worst place you can be. If you're just trying to gain some bonus points and lead some laps, this is the best place to be.
Now, I mentioned that last year, twice we had a driver start on the pole and go on to win the race. I'd have to really look back and see if there was ever a case where a driver started shotgun on the field and ended up winning. How about Sean Prime in that 15 truck, now up into the top 5, making the pass on Chris Elliott. He started all the way back in the 40th position. Really haven't talked about him much here tonight, and in some cases, that's a good thing because it means you've kept the truck out of trouble. He's got Mark Paglia with him. Oh, got a warping truck. That's Joe DeSpirito, 24, up on that outside line behind Chris Elliott. He's just in front of the 00 of Kelly Causey, who was really impressive in the All-Star race a couple of weeks ago, was able to race his way in through the All-Star Open and finished up inside of the top 10 in the official finish results for the main event. Really has shown that he's a pretty good Super Speedway Series racer, and obviously up here inside of the top 10, he's had some friends he's picked up along the way to get him to that point.
And you just kind of have a little bit of a wait that you know he's going to get a win, but you just don't know when.
We've seen a lot of drivers pick up their first career victories in the last couple of seasons, and might see Kelly Causey be one of those drivers. A couple of other drivers I would say to keep an eye on here as well. Blaine Donlin in the 73. Oh, spinner! Mark Paglia on the back straightaway. I'm pretty certain we're not going to see a caution, as that again was below the racing surface. So Paglia in the Ford Credit Ford F-Series going for a wild slide, brings it back up the racetrack. No oncoming traffic, so we still remain green.
And you know, a lot of sighs of relief got breathed, and a lot of cursing happened under some breaths there, because some guys definitely wanted that caution, some guys did not.
Ron Hagelin, we saw right there, that caution would have saved him as he came down pit road along with Bob Dixon. And now the 111 is going to go a lap down for his troubles. Jeffries gets around him, and look at here as these drivers snake their way down the back straightaway, move topside on the 111, and then immediately down to that yellow line. I'm hearing that these guys are really, really close on fuel, and I think we're going to see some of them on pit road here in the next lap or two. As a matter of fact, here they come. Jeffries on pit road, Brian Schilling, Tim Knopfsker as well, and some others coming in behind them. Rodney Sullins, Joe DeSpirito. Look at the smoke here. Drivers locking up them brakes.
And it's really a smoke show, but sometimes that smoke will spook other drivers behind you into making mistakes, so definitely got to keep an eye out for it.
Like everybody from that group, they were able to make it on pit road safely. few drivers I think might have pit the lap prior, including Brian Lavelle, Josh Metallic, Doug Hulick, I should say, Dave Melson. Here's your lead group, I do believe, with Donnie Garrett and company. No, correction. These drivers, I think, also were on pit lane, so let's find our lead group. Well, actually, that might be your lead group right there. I think we just had a group of drivers come down pit road the lap prior. This might be your lead group leaving pit road. So that pit stop for Novsker and company came at the completion of lap 46, right on the mark, 20 laps to go. This is going to be really interesting if we don't see a caution throw a spanner in the works of who's going to be able to make it and who isn't. And again, if we end up having a caution come out with about 4 to go, the likelihood is this race is going to end under yellow. And I go back to a race that Grant Wesley won. He was maybe the closest of anybody on fuel, but was able to clutch and save enough under those pacing laps to come around and take the checkered flag. We might see a case of deja vu here tonight. The question is, what driver would it that fits that scenario?
You mentioned those, if there's a 4 lap to go caution, a lot of guys have that marked in their head that they already know before then is go time. And past that, you've just got to pretty much keep your foot down and hope.
Remember when Larry McReynolds called Kevin Harvick, where did he come from? How about Dante Ricky? First time we talk about him here tonight is within the 20 laps to go mark, and he is up to the 4th position. All-Star race winner, now inside of the top 5. It's a 4-truck breakaway. Then you go back here to a group of about 7, 8, 9 trucks, all single file, a group of about 15 trucks in total. And they are certainly going to reel in that top 4 for sure. Brian Lavelle leading this group, Josh Metallic there as well. Now this group of drivers all came down pit road a lap sooner than the drivers up ahead. So they'd be even more on the bubble of whether they could make it the rest of the scheduled distance on what they've got in the tank.
Again, Seth, if you had those odds, you had all the data in front of you, or at least you had the amount of data that you kind of have on a normal, regular basis, how confident are you?
I'm basically, right now, I am looking at my F3. I am checking to see when the number goes lower in what portion of the racetrack. If I see the number tick down in turn 3, then I'm staying out the rest of the way. I think I'm okay. I'm more than likely going to run out just after the start-finish line. But if I see that number tick down anywhere from the start-finish line over to the middle of 1 and 2, I'm starting to save a bunch to make sure I make it to the conclusion.
And let me go ahead and now ask this. Since you have teammates in this race, do you use your teammates at your disposal, or do you think that's kind of all bets off at this moment?
I think the teammates are still taking place here. I think that all bets are off usually when you get into that kind of point of no return that I talked about. 4 to go, 3 to go, realizing there's a chance the race could end under caution. You start setting up the moves then and there. So I think at this point, the alliances that have been in place in the early stage of the race, they're still intact. Those alliances will start to go away, though, the closer we get to the conclusion of this race. And you saw right there, Brian Lavelle, Josh Metallic, they were leading that second group, had a big run to the inside. All of a sudden, everybody behind them jumps up to the middle, and those two are stranded on the bottom. And they're going to drift back quite a ways, probably back to around the 21st, 22nd position, as we've got about 23 trucks up in this lead pack at this point in time. Pit road did not work out for a few drivers, in particular Wiley Coate, Billy Elliser, Mike Rogers, Tom Dixon, Curlin Hurst, who we saw up here inside of the top 5 not too long ago. He's fallen way back from the lead pack. We saw Mark Paglia have his spin. He's still on the lead lap, though, but a number of drivers at this point in time, they are hoping and praying for a caution to come out to keep their hopes alive of maybe picking up a checkered flag here this evening. And there's a pack of 4 just up ahead of this group. I saw Manny D was a part of that. Cy Jones. We've got a truck slow on the apron of the tri-oval there. And
Mr. Where did he come from? Mr. Where did he go?
Yeah, Milt Surratt in the 80 truck. I don't know if he didn't come off pit road because he was through the tri-oval on the apron. That truck is obviously slow. I'm not certain what exactly happened to him. Whatever it was, there's no caution. But a tough break there for Milt, as now that traffic's going to get caught here by the race leaders. Bernie Mobbs first on the hit list, still sporting that roof damage after going up and over at the completion of the first lap of this race. Manny D, Cy Jones a part of this group as well, and the 143 of Bob Dixon. But that kind of shuffles the lucky dog position around even more. Right now, Manny D and Bernie Mobbs, I believe, would be in the free pass spots, and now, nope, those are the drivers that are in the free pass positions. Now it changes. Mark Pagley going a lap down now is in the free pass spot with Manny D. So we're back to the same scenario like we were middle of the race within the race to get the free pass positions, while also drivers battling for spots inside the top 5, top 10.
So pretty much just a kind of lie in wait. We're going to just kind of ride this one out, and as you see the laps tick down, they're just going to kind of get more aggressive as we continue going forward.
Tim Nofsker came down pit road as the race leader when the green flag pit stop cycles began, potentially the final pit stop of the day. He has not given up the top spot since. I'd be a little bit concerned if I'm the 088 spending this much time out in front, because if anybody would have a question mark on whether they can make it the rest of the way on fuel, I would assume it would be our race leader. Now, granted, he came down with 20 laps to go. He didn't come down with 21 laps to go, so he does have a little bit of wiggle room, but right now it doesn't look like anybody's in any hurry to pass him and allow him the opportunity to get some draft.
And that's going to be kind of a friend or foe move where, again, if it's a teammate, you just don't want to kind of let anyone get a little bit of draft. And same thing, if it's not a teammate, you don't want to help out anyone else to hurt your chances.
Take a look here at the drivers up inside of the top 5. Tim Nofsker did not make the playoffs last season. Jeremy Jeffries did not make the playoffs last season. And Dante Ricky did make the playoffs, but he ended up finishing last back in the 10th spot. So these are 3 drivers that are certainly looking to do a little bit better here this season. And what better way than to secure yourself the golden ticket into the playoffs? One race into the season, more trucks up ahead that they're going to deal with. That's Curlin Hurst and Tom Dixon. So we're starting on this long green flag run, potentially the checkered flag, to start to check off drivers that more than likely are not going to be in the conversation for this victory, as we are nearing 10 laps to go in the next 2 laps or so.
Yeah, that's what he said. Pretty much the money stop, the money decisions, what people get paid for.
Tim Nofsker's about to lead his 21st lap of the evening. Been a pretty dominating performance by super speedway standards for that Jegs Chevrolet Silverado, but obviously doesn't matter how many laps you lead if you don't lead that all-important final lap back to the start-finish line, the checkered flag. And we haven't talked about it, but let's address the elephant in the room. Daytona, start-finish line in the middle of the tri-oval. Here at Talladega, you got that extra few hundred feet from the tri-oval all the way down to the middle of the tri-oval to the turn 1 entry. That could play such a huge part into the outcome of this race.
Pretty much, you can't really use the excuse, oh, but I had a few hundred more feet, I could have beat him. Well, you have the few hundred more feet. Go ahead and beat him.
Also kind of curious of when we start to see drivers make moves. Again, I feel that the alliances stay until we get to that 3 to go, 4 to go mark. But usually a couple laps prior to that, we'll start to see drivers just outside the top 10, maybe in the latter half of the top 10, realizing we've got to start to form the line now. We've got to get the momentum generated now to make sure that we're up there towards the front in the closing stages. So keep your eye back around the middle of this pack, rear of the field, for that outside line to maybe start forming. We may see an inside line form as well, as race leaders are yielding that inside lane to run the middle of these corners. We'll wait and see who's going to be that one truck to step out of line, and will there be friends that go with him?
That's where you kind of find your friends or foes to see, is he confident enough to go with me, or he got his own strategy?
Right now, by my count, we've got 21 drivers in this lead pack with a shot of still winning this race. Obviously, a caution could really shuffle things up and give a lot of drivers a little bit of extra life. I talked about who might be the driver to step out of line. How about the driver right now that is the last lead lap truck in this group? Saw Josh Metallic stepping to the bottom. He's picking up the lap truck of Curlin Hurst, and they're going to start going to work. More drivers are going to see that in their rearview mirror and start migrating down to the inside line as well, and start formulating a group that might be able to get up there to the front. Looks like a couple of positions picked up there. Metallic did not make a pass for position, but Curlin Hurst did, getting around the 7 of Cy Jones. So Metallic right now in the 21st spot. Now he's going to jump to the top side here on the 111. That is a lap down machine. Right now, looking for position, Josh Metallic. Oh, no, correction. The 111 is on the lead lap. So this is for position between the 39 of Josh Metallic and the 111 of Ron Hagelin. And then next truck that Metallic would be looking for would be that 38 Red Hots machine of Rodney Sullins. Also, too, people may not have tuned in to the RTG Super Speedway Series All-Star Race a couple of weeks ago, but want to offer the congratulations to Rodney Sullins. Seems fitting that here at Talladega we bring this up. He had a paint scheme designed by him, featured on Bailey Curry's JD Motorsports #4 at Talladega Super Speedway a couple of weeks ago. Was actually able to go down there for the race weekend and watch that car in action. So pretty cool there for him. Obviously not the luck he was looking for here tonight at Talladega, but always a cool story when you see somebody from the sim racing community able to break their way in some way, shape, or form into the world of NASCAR.
And actually, I think he got a few seats on the pit box. I think he had posted a few videos of that race.
Did indeed. Got to see his point of view, and of course got to talk to him as well when he was down in Talladega in the middle of that race break during the All-Star race a few weeks ago. So pretty cool there for Rodney Sullins. Right now, he is running back in the 19th position, still on the lead lap at this point in time. The clock is ticking. The laps are winding down. At 6 to go this next time by. Pretty much, I would assume that everybody from second place on back can make it on fuel. I'm still a little bit quizzitive about that race leader, Tim Nofsker, but I'm starting to see guys get a little antsy here too, kind of sniffing the inside or the outside, testing the waters, looking in the rearview mirror, seeing that if they make that move, if anybody behind them makes the same move, indicating they're going to go with them.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those, you don't want to be the one who blinks first, but if you're not the one who blinks first, you might miss your opportunity.
Dante Ricky is willing to make moves. Saw him go 3 wide for the race win a couple of weeks ago to pick up that all-star race victory. 6 laps remaining here in the season opener at Talladega. We've only had 2 cautions here tonight. We've had a couple of incidents that did not bring out the yellow. A few drivers a lap down as a result of it, but it has been a very exciting season opener, and we're getting ready to maybe write the final page of the first chapter of this season. Nofsker continuing to show the way. Jeffries in second. Dante Ricky in third. Doug Hulick right now in fourth. And Donnie Garrett completes the top 5. Look at this, moving down to the inside line to get by some traffic. Tom Dixon, that is Tim Nofsker. And did we just lose the 77? I believe that Donnie Garrett just came to pit road. So, oh boy, it's even closer than I thought for drivers being able to make it on fuel. We got a truck spinning in the infield. Bobby Farrell has gone around, but it's not up on the racing surface, so I believe the green still stays out. So who's going to be gutsy? That was with 6 to go. If those guys are coming to pit road now, then they must feel that absolutely nobody in the field is going to be able to make it to the conclusion.
That does not make you feel good as a driver, seeing all those guys come down like, are we sure about our strategy?
Oh, hate to be a crew chief right now. That is for sure, trying to crunch the numbers. Nobody up here in the lead pack hits pit road. This time, Nofsker continues to show the way. Oh, and Bobby Farrell, that contact that we saw sending him into the infield grass, apparently he must have crossed the commitment line when he did so. Speeding penalty for the 92, so an incident that obviously is going to have him have a bad night goes even worse, as he will have to more than likely come down and serve that penalty. We do have 2 drivers back in the garage area as well. Jason Scheck, about 18 laps ago, parked his machine back in the infield, and just a few laps ago, Bob Dixon also to the garage area with a mechanical problem. So those 2 drivers obviously not getting the finishes they were looking for in this season opener, and more drivers peeling onto pit road, including the race leader, the entire top 3, 4,
Oh,
5, and Joe DeSpirito
knocks him
locking him
out.
up hard. He got into the back of Dante Ricky. He's going to clip Dave Melson. Absolute chaos. There's a truck facing the wrong way. Jeffries facing the wrong way on pit road entry. Again, all this off the racing surface. No caution will fly.
And that's the scary part. Once you make your bed and you're on pit road, you're off that racing surface, they will not call yellow for you.
It is gas and go for every single one of these drivers that have hit pit lane. Race lead, I believe, is going to cycle to the 9 of Chris Elliott. He still stays out. Chuck McClure stays out as well. Brian Schilling, Kelly Causey, Rodney Sullins. Those drivers are all trying to make it. And now it's going to be Elliott and Causey and Sullins coming to pit road. I saw a driver, I think it was McClure, really throwing the clutch there off of turn 4. Oh, man.
And you
Two to
just see
go.
those laps keep ticking down.
More than 5 miles. Do they have enough? Look
my
at the
honest
pace
opinion,
right now. Look at the pace he's running.
Yeah, you slow that down.
170 out of the corner.
You need to be running really slow. You need to be running about 50 laps.
Now the drivers they have to worry about that topped off the fuel tank would be back here. Trying to find them. They're quite a ways back. There they are, Dante Ricky and Tim Nofsky. They're just now going into turn 1. Your race leaders are currently exiting out of turn 4. Can they make it this final lap? McClure, is he going to try it? Yes, he is. Brian Schilling is as well. Oh, man, this is going to be a nail-biter here tonight at Dega. One final time, 2.66 miles between Chuck McClure and Brian Schilling to maybe get their first checkered flag of the season. They got to hold off Dante Ricky and Tim Nofsker, who are up to speed.
Who's more confident about their fuel situation? That's the real battle.
Look at this, side by side, these two, maybe trying to throw a barricade in case third place on back catch them. Waiting to see when they eventually cross the start-finish line. They still haven't done it yet. When does Dante Ricky cross the line? Looks like he might have done it just now. About 30 some odd seconds. They just crossed our finish line. 20 seconds back. Chuck McClure, does he have enough time? Does he have enough fuel? There they are on the back straightaway. Dante Ricky and company. McClure. Oh, that's Andrew Miller out of fuel, actually. McClure still under power. I think he's got this.
He might be able to coast to it.
Brian Schilling, I think he's just going to be satisfied for second. He's going to try and crawl across the start-finish line.
I think he's out.
He's out of fuel. Chuck McClure is literally creeping to the start-finish line, but it's going to be enough. Are you kidding me? Chuck McClure on fumes is going to win the season opener at Talladega.
An incredible 77 miles an hour as he crossed the start-finish line.
Brian Schilling was out of fuel as well, and they crossed the line about 4 seconds ahead of Dante Ricky, Tim Nofsker, and Chris Elliott, your top 5. More drivers racing back to the start-finish line to get their final results. Miller, I don't know if he's going to make it back to the start-finish line or not as he's crawling through the tri-oval. But I think Chuck McClure is going to have to call an audible and find someone to push him back to victory lane. Obviously not going to be enough in the tank for burnouts, but who the heck cares?
That's the thing where, here's the thing. At least you got the trophy. Don't worry about the burnouts.
McClure's got somebody. Wiley Coate, the Castrol number 6, going to pull in behind him and try help push him to victory lane. And what a job by Chuck McClure here tonight. We knew the fuel was going to be close. I don't think we knew just how close it was going to be.
That was one man who pretty much he was confident in his strategy and he was willing to follow it through to the end, where everyone else maybe got a little bit suspicious of the strategy. Just bump gone wrong.
Yeah. Well, Wiley Coates not going to be able to push him the rest of the way. Hopefully he'll find somebody else to help get him back to the start-finish line. But Schilling was able to hang on for second. Ricky, Nofsker, and Elliott. That was your top 5. A couple of drivers got some black flags there on their final pit stops of the evening. Blaine Donlin and Terry Bombard. So they end up getting post-race penalties, finishing one lap down outside of the top 20. And in those closing stages as well, Mark Paglia parked his machine. Looks like he's going to finish in 37th. And, well, Chuck McClure going to have to get his crew to come out here and push that machine to victory lane. But let's take a look at the finishing results from tonight. I mean, what a thriller here in this season opener. Chuck McClure, who last season ended up finishing sixth in the overall stands. He found victory lane twice last year, and in back-to-back seasons now, Chuck McClure has won the season opener.
See, this is even one of those races where you can look back and say, hey, a little bit differently of a move on one lap, maybe a little bit more fuel used just to kind of prove something passing the outside line. That could have cost you the race.
You know what's kind of interesting here, too? Not only does Chuck McClure double down and win the season opener, but last year he led 5 laps en route to his victory. This year, he only led 3. So, proving the fact that you don't have to have the dominant truck out in front the entirety of the race. You just got to lead that last lap. And to your point, 75 miles per hour was on his speedometer when he got to the start finish line. But hey, if it's under power, as long as it's back there to the checkered flag first, doesn't matter about the rest of the details. We show you here the rest of your finishing results here tonight. Donnie Garrett going to bring it home in 6th. Bob Seminara, I don't think we really talked much about the former champion. He's going to bring it home in 7th place. Doug Hulick going to finish 8th. Rodney Sullins in 9th. And Brian Lavelle brings it home inside of the top 10. You see 21 drivers finish on the lead lap on down to Joe DeSpirito. Several drivers
Huge hit for
finishing one lap
DeSpirito.
down. Yeah, big hit there for him. But again, as we look at these drivers and these big names that are down here outside of the top 10, even the top 20, let's remember it's a win and you're in scenario to get into the playoffs. And we know that there's a number of drivers here that on the regular season after season, we see them find victory lanes. So certainly no need to be disheartened here tonight, knowing that you've still got 9 more chances.
I mean, here's the thing. Even if the move didn't work out for McClure, he gave it everything he had, and he still would have probably finished maybe top 3.
Yeah, for sure. I believe the furthest he would have finished would have been 5th place. If he hadn't been able to beat that first group, that trio of Ricky Nofsky and Elliott, I'm pretty certain he would have been ahead of Garrett Seminara and company. So, yeah, gutsy call there, realizing that, if you end up not getting that victory, you're at least going to get a top 5 start of the season. But if it pays off in a big way. And it did pay off here tonight.
I honestly think this is exactly what we touched on earlier, where it's the first race this season. This is where you can take some risks before you get in that giant hole.
Absolutely. Well, Chuck McClure, congratulations to him on winning the season opener here tonight and being the first driver to punch their ticket into the season 56 Tally Challenge chase for the championship. We're now going to talk with the drivers that finished on the podium here tonight, and let's see if we can kick things off with the guy that almost doubled down with an all-star race victory and a season opening victory here in the last 2 weeks, and that is the driver of the number 84 Mug Root Beer machine, Dante Ricky. Hey Dante, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yep. Hi, Seth.
Well, man, I'll tell you what. Maybe you needed an extra 100 feet. I don't know just how close it would have been there with that 4 seconds, because obviously you were up to speed. The 17 was crawling. Maybe you only needed about 3 feet to be able to get him at the line. But, man, we saw strategy here tonight in the season opener for sure. What do you think you needed to have happen here to be able to get that checkered flag? I mean, did the 17 need to run out of fuel a little bit sooner? Did you guys have to be bunched up nose to tail a little bit better? What would have been the deciding factor, do you think, there?
Yeah, that was quite a crazy finish. Good race there for Chuck. Congratulations, Chuck, for getting the win. I'll tell you what, our pit stop there. Again, that magic lap, 4 on 3 to go. I make that decision to come into pit road. I would have liked to delay that decision a little longer than the rest of the drivers, but I definitely needed a few people to come with me. We had a little bit of a problem there getting into the pit road. There was a stack up of a few cars, a few trucks, and I don't really know how much time we lost in that last final pit stop. But again, I took a splash of fuel. We were clear by 3 pounds at the start finish line. We had no issue finishing the race with plenty of fuel, but we had to come to pit road. Staying out was not going to be an option because we just weren't able to save enough on our gas mileage. Our truck, the Mug Root Beer Toyota, was really fast all night tonight. We were stuck in the middle and back of the pack most of the race. The green flag pitting is what allowed us to get that opportunity to spiral through the field and come up in the top five out of the pit stop there close to the end of the race with about 21 laps to go. We just needed a cleaner pit stop cycle there at the end, and I think we would have had a much better shot. But really, really good job to Chuck and Brian Schilling for being able to pull it off and come out with the win on fuel mileage tonight.
So Dante, my really big question is, what did you take from the All-Star race and bring here?
Hi, Matt. Yeah, the whole aggression level has picked up here on Thursdays, and we've been able to push and bump draft a lot more confidently with these trucks than I think we were able to do with the cars in the previous seasons of the Talladega Challenge. And that All Star race was a really good energy boost for our team. All of my friends who I work with on the racetrack, we're able to work together better and lock bumpers and be comfortable in 3 and 4 wide situations and not let it bother us. You know, it goes back to the things of standing your ground and what I talked about after the All Star race, where it was so important to not be discouraged when you got stuck in the middle, but hold your line, be patient, and work your way back up through the field without worrying about what could happen next. Just making sure that you have a good line to be in and a good opportunity to make that pass when the time is right. And patience, consistency, and confidence. Those are the things that were really able to drive me to that top three finish tonight. And being the first truck that was able to get in the top three tonight, even having to make it to pit road, really, really good result to start the new season.
Dante, obviously, when we broadcasted back in season 52, we saw where drivers were basically able to determine where they started in the grid with being able to go out and set a qualifying lap. We saw you consistently up inside of the top 10. Here tonight, you rolled off from the 27th position, and we're going to be seeing this as a regular during the entirety of this year with the Lotto Q. I mean, just how much did that Lotto qualifying kind of change up your strategy, especially when you don't know where you're going to be until about just maybe 5 minutes away from taking the green flag?
Yeah, it's a real sticky situation sometimes if you start in the back of the pack and have a pit stall way, way back 38, 39, 40, 41. You have to pretty much be on pit road and be below 55 to get into your pit stall safely if you start way in the back. And being 28th, we were still able to hot pit, as we call it, to enter the pit road really hard, really fast, really aggressively. But there are certain situations and people I look to see who's close to me on pit road and where they are on the racetrack. And people who are close by, I try to pit with them if they're within a couple trucks pitting of me. And you always look for your friends. It's not always an exact science. You may have to wait one more lap if you get stuck on the outside line, but you always hope for a lucky draw up front in those first five pit stalls if you can do something up at the front of the grid. Those are always the better pit stalls. But when you get stuck in the middle to middle back, it's really not much different. It's a matter of just trying to find your groove and getting into the inside line at the right time for the green flag pit stop. However, we always communicate with each other to try and keep things clean, and it was just a little bit of a sloppy pit stop there at the end of the race.
Still a great way to open up the season here for you, finishing up inside the top five, inside of the podium here tonight. Almost pulling off that victory. Circumstances might have been a little bit different there, but good way to start out the year. We kind of were in about 20 to go saying, where the heck did he come from? Popping up there when it matters the most. And got some fans here in the chat as well that were cheering you on here tonight. So we're going to give you the opportunity now for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Also, I'd like to thank my entire family, mom, dad, brother, and sister, all of the RTG owners and staff, Bones, Prime. Thank you guys for putting this on. Thanks to Josh, Wiley, and Tim for running the Talladega Challenge series so well. We're going to have an amazing season here in season 56. Also, thank you to my soccer friends. I know my friend Josh is watching tonight. Good to see you, Josh. Hope to put it in victory lane the next time we're out here on Thursday. And again, all the drivers here at RTG, you guys are the best. This is the most competitive league I know of, and we are going to have an exciting season here on Flatout Racing Network. So thanks, Matt. Thanks, Seth, and have a great night tonight.
Absolutely. That's Dante Ricky. He brings it home P3 here this evening in the season opener at Talladega. Congratulations once again on the great run and best of luck next week.
Thanks, everyone. Good race, guys.
Let's see if we can get our second place finisher here tonight, Brian Schilling. Hey, Brian, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, what's going on?
Tell you what, that Kevin Harvick throwback looked pretty sleek out there today. Led a couple of laps, had good qualifying position as well, up inside the top five, and pretty much kept it up there all race long. You bring it home second place here tonight, and I'll tell you what, our hearts were in our throats watching you and the 17 trying to clutch and save enough fuel to get to the start finish. Like, I can only imagine what size the drops of sweat were on your forehead there on that final lap.
Oh yeah, that was fun. You know, I've raced with Chuck many, many years, and it basically turned into a game of chicken at the end there. Both of us trying to get each other use up our fuel.
Now, last year you ended up just barely missing out on the playoffs, finished 11th in the overall standings. Obviously, here this season, got to be looking for a little bit of redemption. Certainly looks like this is a step in the right direction. So, are you looking for these consistent finishes, or are we looking to see this four parked in victory lane in the near future?
Well, I mean, you always want to win, but I'll take second places all day. It's great for points. And you make it to that final chase race, good chance second place is going to win it for you.
So, Brian, I gotta ask. I mean, how on the scale of like 1 to 10, as you start seeing people peel down the pit road, are you confident in your fuel strategy? I mean, do you start panicking?
No, I wasn't confident at all. I was telling Chuck, I'm like, I'm not pitting. I'm like, I'm swinging for the fences. I didn't, you know, uh, first race, so I missed the first race last season. So it's like, you know what? Worst case, I start off in the same footing as last season. So I just took a shot at the fence.
Well, it nearly worked for you. A great run to start out the season. Runner up here this evening at the high banks of Talladega. Congratulations on the great start to the season. And now we're going to give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors, do some shout outs.
As usual, thank you everybody here at RTG. David Cannon, Sean Prime, Josh Metallic, Tim Nosker for putting this on, Wiley, Cody, all the other admins and staff that do all the hard work here. Thank you guys for putting this on. Great, always a great show. And yeah, look forward to the rest of the season.
That's Brian Schilling. He's your second place finisher here tonight in our season opener for season 56 of the RTG Tally Challenge. Congratulations once again. And maybe next week we'll talk to you one position higher in victory lane.
Hopefully so. Thanks, guys.
Let's see if we can now go down to victory lane and talk with a driver that certainly wasn't able to make it there under his own power. Probably had to get a little bit of assistance, but nonetheless, he's going to get to hoist that race winning trophy here tonight. Let's talk with Chuck McClure. Hey, Chuck, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you, fellas.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, crossing the line, picking up that checkered flag with a blazing last lap speed of 147 miles per hour. I think you were 75 miles per hour thereabouts when you crossed the start finish line. But hey, as long as that thing's still running and in a forward motion, cross that start finish line with a checkered flag waving. That's all that matters. We talked just moments ago with another driver that pulled off the same strategy and Brian Schilling. I mean, just how nervous were you that that thing wasn't going to be able to make it around, especially with the fact that you had third place on back, up to speed, breathing down your neck?
I was pretty sure it was not going to make it, and it ran out, just quit running altogether right past pit road entrance. So that's a lucky one there for me. But Shill and I both talked. We're not pitting no matter what, and sure enough, we got lucky.
Now, I brought this up at the top of the evening that a brand new season, it's a clean slate, everybody starts at 0 points. So, does that give you a little bit of leverage here tonight to pull off a strategy like that, knowing that if it didn't pan out, you've still got 9 more weeks to try and win your way into the playoffs?
Well, a little bit of that, and a little bit of boy, that was dumb because you could really start out in a deep hole, and there's a lot of real good drivers here, and you could not even make the chase if you're not careful.
The final question here, obviously, now You've got the pressure off of you. You've got that victory. You've got yourself a current playoff position. Does that now give you a little bit more freedom to be able to go out there and make a little bit more aggressive moves than you would make in a situation if you hadn't had a victory in the bank to maybe try and get a couple more and rack up some more points for the eventual playoffs?
Well, I always want to win. Don't get me wrong, but it affords me some chances now that I can take, and maybe a little bit more relaxed. And you know, yeah, as of right now, I think I'm in the chase. But you have to be in the top 20. I'm pretty sure, and you don't want to be stupid, but yeah, we can take more chances now for sure.
Well, obviously, a step in the right direction to try and get your another championship here in the Tally Challenge series. Congratulations on the victory here tonight. And now we're going to hand the microphone over to you for some Victory Lane thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Well, I'd like to get a shout out to all the people that work at Marshall County Schools that's watching or may watch later. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Uh, Turns out I can drive a truck better than I can drive a school bus. And Rodney Sullins, he painted that truck up. It's the first time it's been on the track, and man, I thought it was beautiful out there, especially crossing the start finish line. And my buddies Brian Schilling and Tim Nofsker and Mark Paglia, we all try to run together, and I appreciate them working with me when they do.
Might have had a little Jack Daniels in the tank to get you that extra little bit you need on that final lap. But man, Chuck, congratulations once again on a job well done. A thrilling finish here tonight in the season opener, and best of luck to you next week to try and carry this momentum on through the regular season.
I appreciate it, fellas. I hope you enjoyed it.
So as Chuck McClure continues to celebrate down in victory lane, that brings tonight's season opener, the 56th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Tally Challenge Series, to a close. I'll tell you what, Matt, I kind of said it coming in. We were expecting that with everybody with a clean slate, that we were more than likely going to see a thriller here tonight. I don't think I was exactly planning on this type of a thrilling finish, but no doubt it did not disappoint.
Again, you got to have it on your mind, and you got to think next week's going to be a whole new set of scenarios. Guys who are trying to shake off those first week troubles, and some guys who are trying to continue those first week runs.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be exciting to see down this regular season who else may join Chuck McClure in the playoffs. Again, as he mentioned, though, you may have the victory, but you got to keep yourself in the top 20 in the point standings for that win to count towards a playoff spot as well. So Chuck McClure's job is not done by any stretch of the imagination either, despite the fact that he gets the first checkered flag of the season. We hope that you guys will continue this journey with us. Next week, it's race number 2 of the 56th season of the RTG Tally Challenge Series. We'll be bringing you coverage with the green flag flying at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But once again, a thriller here tonight. We appreciate you joining us here for tonight's exciting season opener. And Matt, appreciate you joining me up in the booth here tonight.
Always enjoy being invited.
So until next Thursday, folks, we will see you next time. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.